Hey there, I am back with another deck preview, and today we're going to be looking at Visions from Wounded Corner. This is the first deck from Wounded Corner. You may know the Wounded Corner website, one of the best resellers of playing cards out there. And the guy behind it, Steve, is one of the fixtures in the community. Not only does he run the Wounded Corner website, but he's also one of the two faces along with Tyler for the Deckin Around channel. Really great channel. They do fantastic interviews with designers, creators, cardists, magicians. So go check out their channel as well. But this is Steve's first deck. And for the design, he partnered up with Christian Ellingstad over at Arcadia Playing Cards. A really talented designer, really great pairing. The vision behind this deck, no pun intended, was to go into the difficulties and emotions, as well as the vision required to achieve your goals. So it's looking at both the positive and the negative emotions and how those can really come together to help us reach whatever it is that we desire. It's a really powerful message, and I love a good story-driven deck. So this was really interesting to me right off the bat when I saw the concept. Really excited to check it out. Now, I will caution, this is a prototype deck that Steve was kind enough to send me. These are printed by MPC, both the tucks and the cards. The eventual deck's going to be printed by Cardamundi with tuck cases by the one and only Clove Street Press. So be aware of that. There's going to be some changes to this. I'll show some things off, give you guys a chance to get a flavor of what the deck's all about, though, so you can go back it if you're interested. Now, starting with the tuck case, this is one of only 3 different versions. There's going to be past, present, and future versions. This is the past version that we're taking a look at here. A lot of similarities to the cards within. There are going to be some differences on the tuck case as well. But this particular tuck case is done in a mixture of sort of black, silver, white, and then this really nice teal color. And I like that it doesn't go overboard with the teal. Just kind of gives you those touches for accents. It's a really ornate design. Obviously, you have visions emblazoned right across the middle. You have the 3 arrows. I'm going to guess those represent past, present, and future. And then kind of minimal branding across. You have premium quality playing cards, Wounded Corner at the bottom, as well as the Wounded Corner logo. And then lots of details filling in. It has a little bit of an Arabic design feel to me, especially with this background pattern here. This is kind of the feel I get from it overall, but really nicely framed up. Love the aesthetic of this tuck case. Turning to the sides, these are of course produced by Wounded Corner and designed by Arcadia Playing Cards, like I mentioned before. Bottom's got your ad copy. Of course, these are printed by MPC as a prototype. The eventual ones will be by Cardamundi. And then on the top, a couple more arrows. And the back gives you a little bit of a preview of what we're going to see on the back design of the cards. This isn't the same color, but you get a feel of the design here. A little more of that in a second. Get the inner flap with "Work is love made visible." Fantastic quote. And then 3 more dots here representing past, present, and future. Now, I mentioned, of course, this is the prototype, so you can see this one's just numbered out of the 30 decks that he printed for the initial run. So I got number 24 out of 30. But really, this is more about the cards. So let's check those out, and we'll start with the back design. And here it is. I'm a big fan of this back design. I really like what's going on here. It's mostly a teal background. There's stretch goals that are going to turn this into metallic ink or potentially even metallic foil, depending on it hitting some of those stretch goals. But even in just the regular teal, it's a really striking color. And then very fine details in silver ink all the way around, just little flourishes all the way through. And then you have the central element of the 2 arrows pointing towards the top and the bottom, forming a 2-way back design. Symbolism here, the arrow representative of your vision, your drive, your journey forward, and then all the different lines and everything you see here representative of those obstacles that you'll hit along the way. Really intentional design, but still very functional. Love the details and just sort of the really fine line work, even the little dots to create the little pattern in the back. Really nicely done back design, finishing out with that thin white poker border. Extra cards, you get something I really, really love in this. It's a 2-way diptych joker. So diptych just means it's two images that are separate, but then you can put them together to form a single image. And you'll see here that it's got the 2 characters that are walking along a path, flanked by the mountains in the back and then the river in the foreground. And you can see each of them with a reflection kind of shining in the river before them. But you can reverse it and have them, instead of walking away from each other, you can have them walking towards each other with a single reflection in the water there. And this is actually an interesting story that's behind these. These are Devi and Vizzy, the two characters on the Diptych Jokers. And there's an entire story about the two of them. Devi always experiencing negative emotions, Vizzy full of those positive emotions. And as they went through on their journey, they kind of started out separate, saw themselves as two different people. But over time, they started to travel together, learn from each other, learn how the positive and negative emotions could come into balance, and eventually kind of united on a single journey represented by that single reflection in the water. So really cool story. I like the artwork that's done on this, and I've never seen this two-way Diptych Joker. I think it's a really cool concept. So nicely done on that. Very creative use. Now the aces all represent different deities, and they are beautifully designed. Each one of these are deities that are representative for both positive and negative things throughout. In general, as we go throughout the deck, the black cards are going to be more the positive emotions, the red cards more the negative emotions. Love that consistency of theme throughout. You start out with the Ace of Spades. This is by far the most spectacular card in the whole deck. It has a big, large spade pip with Ganesh sitting in the middle, or Ganesha. Ganesha is one of the Indian deities, and is representative as the remover of obstacles, which is a great fit in with the theme and your vision, obstacles along the way. So to have the deity representative of that removal of obstacles, I think is a great touch. And as you look at the artwork, it's just so ornate, interesting. Those many arms out there, the ornate patterning on this, the subtle coloring with the reds and the blues mixed in with the gold and gray. It's a really fantastic Ace of Spades. One of my favorite that I've seen in a really long time. So really well done with that Ace of Spades. We've got the Wounded Corner Visions, and then designed by Arcadia at the bottom. Really ornate index in the corner as well. Kind of has an Arabic feel to it. If you've seen like the Arabesque cards from Lautrec, kind of has a little bit of that feel to me. And then the pretty standard, or a more standard looking pip underneath, just slightly outlined in silver. And then that arrow that we've seen as sort of a recurring element flanked down the side. So really nicely done on the Ace of Spades. The other three aces all have gods or goddesses on them as well, all with an Egyptian theme to them overall, and they all have their own representation of emotion. They're a little bit simpler overall. So on the Ace of Diamonds over here, for example, we have Set, who's the deity of chaos from Egyptian culture. And then the Ace of Clubs features Hathor, who's the goddess of love and fertility, the cow goddess. And on the Ace of Hearts, you have Bastet, who's the cat goddess of war. So a little bit more on the negative side there. So really cool drawings on all of the aces, but that Ace of Spades really takes the cake. All right, now the number cards are all a lot more standard. These have Arcadia standard pips on them, big, bold pips. They are slightly outlined in silver, which is a nice touch. Gives them just a tiny bit of extra pop to them, but otherwise fairly standard other than that little arrow in the corner. As you go through, you'll see all of them, spades, diamonds, clubs, hearts, all relatively standard on these. Standard layout keeps this a nice, really functional deck in my mind. So that's the number cards. And just really quickly flip through here so you can see all those in turn. And then you get to the courts, full custom courts, and all courts really meant to tell more of the story. Each one of these, a person representing an emotion of some sort. Like I said before, black cards are going to be more positive emotions, red cards more negative emotions, but it really is kind of getting into a bit of a yin-yang, the idea that these emotions all come together to make us who we are. So each one of these is going to have a background which is done in silver, really ornate pattern to them, and have beautifully drawn two-way quartz on these. Now, while I will say I really do like the quartz, one thing that's a little bit of a shame to me is I don't think that it matches quite as well with the designs of the aces. You know, I look at how ornate and detailed that ace of spades is. It really looks like a slightly different design as you go into the courts, almost like they're from two different decks. So while I definitely like both of them independently, I'll say I probably like the style of art on the aces a little bit more than the courts, but I do have a great appreciation for the story told through them. We'll talk a little bit about that. So as I said, each one of these has an emotion. Here's the Jack of Spades with a little bird in his hand, and that bird's representative of joy. So the first of the emotions, just him appreciating the bird. Love the kind of subtle emotion in his face and the kind of, I think, Arab feel overall to the court. Then you go to the Jack of Diamonds. You'll see a little bit of a cultural difference as we go through some of these, which is kind of interesting. But now with the Jack of Diamonds, we're going to a more negative emotion. This one's procrastination. So that's represented by that watch, or that pocket watch in his hand. Now next up is the Jack of Clubs. This is creativity. So that quill in his hands representing the creations and literature or whatever that he's off to with his creative mind. And then turning to more negative with the Jack of Hearts, and we have despair, that black rose in his hand representative of despair. Actually, this was the first of the court cards that I saw in any of the previews that Steve had done, you know, in social media and stuff. So really big fan of this one. I like this one a lot. As we're going through these, you'll notice some of the differences in nationality and culture. Really has a multicultural feel to it overall. Really like that was done on this one. Really kind of helps celebrate diversity within the deck among everything else it is trying to accomplish with the design. Now, as you go to the queens, we have more emotions represented. So the Queen of Spades here, humility, represented by that simple white flower in her hand. Queen of Diamonds, representing anxiety. Of course, you can see the anxious look in her face with the hands running through her hair. Queen of Clubs, now more positive. This one's represented by tranquility with the yin yang symbol in her hand and the incense in her other hand. And the Queen of Hearts, this one's ego. So you can see her looking at herself in the mirror there. Really like that one. This might be my favorite one. I love the mirror reflection and everything. Now, the King of Spades, this is the one that I know Steve said is sort of his favorite of them. This one represents the emotion of love. That double arrow is the significance in a story around love for that one. So he has the archer with the double arrow with the crown on his head there. So that's a really cool one. I like that court card a lot. King of Diamonds, this one's representative of judgment. So the scales in his hand, scales of judgment. King of Clubs, this one is acceptance. So the open book in his hand there is a symbol of acceptance. And the King of Hearts, this one is hate. One of the most openly negative of the emotions, and the spider there is the symbol for hate that's represented on this one. So really beautifully illustrated court cards. Certainly, you know, not as consistent artistically with the aces, but really great in their own rights. Love the background that's included on these, the mixture of colors, the teals and the reds. Really nice mixture overall. And that is the deck. Like I said, this is just one of multiple decks, and there's tons of stretch goals, not just for additional decks, eventually hoping to be 3 different decks, past, present, and future. Embellishments on the inks, you'll see more metallic inks, maybe even metallic foil showing up on the card. So lots of potential improvements up there. And one really exciting one that's potentially out there is the future deck. The future deck is, if it reaches that stretch goal, going to be actually created by Lautrec himself. So we're going to have a special tuck case, really over the top, beautiful. Oath playing cards and Lautrec are second to none when it comes to printing and creating cards and tuck cases. So he's going to be the one behind that final version. So really excited to see this one just smash through those goals and make it to that future version of the deck. But hope you enjoyed this little bit of a preview of the Visions deck. Thanks again to Steve for sending me the prototype to take a look at. I'm a backer on this one. Recommend checking it out. I'll put a link down in the description to the Kickstarter campaign if you want to follow along as well. Definitely recommend it. All right, well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this preview of Visions from Wounded Corner. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings, and let me know what else it is that you want to see in the future. But that's it for now, and I'll see you for the next one.